Hi, welcome back. It's Lee, or welcome. It's Lee. I'm going to go over today how to do increases and decreases when you're going around on a project, and just going over a couple things that I felt like I didn't always understand in patterns when I was looking at patterns, and so I thought it would be helpful to go over a couple things here, increasing and decreasing, just so you know what that is. So if you're doing any one of my patterns or crochet kits, I will show how to increase and decrease on the actual tutorials for the patterns, but if you just want to get an idea of how to do it without going through the whole pattern, then this should help you. So this is something that I've been doing in the round. I started with 6 single crochet. Sun's coming in now. Well, we'll try to deal with that. 6 single crochet at first, then I increased every stitch for the next row and then every other for the row after, and kind of go on like that for different rows. You'll notice it kind of has a little hexagon shape versus a circle shape, and that's because if you put your increases in the same place every round, then your increases are kind of always going to be there and always going to be here and always here, and so you end up with this sort of hexagon shape. Now, if you end up not increasing and decreasing for a while and just kind of making the shape stay the same size, then it kind of evens out. Like, for example, this guy, if you look closely, it might look like it's a hexagon a little bit, but once you get to the actual going down part where you're not increasing and decreasing, it evens itself out and it doesn't look that lopsided. But there are ways to deal with that, and you just stagger where your increases and decreases are as you go, and we can talk about that another time. That way it doesn't look so much like a hexagon, it looks more like a circle. But for now, let's just work on increases and decreases. So just a reminder, for now, when we're increasing, we're going to be going in, this sun is super annoying, we're going to be going in the both parts of the V on a stitch. So there's your stitch, and we're going to go in both parts of it when you're doing increases. And we'll talk about 2 different ways to do decreases after that. How can I get away from this sun? I'll be right back. Okay, so I moved over just a little bit, and hopefully that'll help us with the sun. So what I'm going to do, I think what I'm up to on this row is like maybe doing 5 single crochets and then an increase, but it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to show you. Okay, that's a regular single crochet, and I just put it in both parts of the V. And for an increase, all you're going to do is put 2 stitches. I got a lot of works in progress over here. You're going to put 2 stitches into the same stitch, and that'll make an increase. So my next stitch, I'm going to put in my 1 single crochet, and again, I'm using Lion Brand cotton 24/7 just because it's easy to look at. I mean, it's easy to see your stitches, they're pretty well defined. So in that very same stitch that I just put 1 single crochet in, I'm going to put a second single crochet in that same stitch. Sometimes it's hard to see, but you just go in the same stitch where you just were, and you put in a second stitch. So when you look at these stitches, you can kind of, once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to tell which of your stitches has 1 stitch, like that's just 1 stitch in 1 stitch, and which has 2, because they end up being a little slanted so they can both fit in the same thing. And you can do this if you kind of lose count and you forget, did I do 4 and an increase or 3 and an increase? You can look through your work and you can figure it out. Like, there's an increase right there, there is a not increase. So that's all it is. Let's just do 1 more, then we'll work on a decrease. So my next stitch, one more thing is, when you increase, depending on the yarn you're using, especially if it's thicker yarn, you may have a hard time seeing your very next stitch because the second stitch of your increase kind of encroaches onto the next stitch, but that's okay. Just kind of be mindful of where your next stitch is and make sure you don't skip it to the next one. You can insert your hook into that very next stitch. So we're going to put in a stitch like usual, and then we're just going to go in that same stitch and put in a second stitch, and that's an increase. And then you can just keep going by not putting increases in and then putting increases in however the pattern tells you to do. Okay, that's funny shape. So the next thing is decreases. So this can happen, you know, if you're making something in the round, let's say you're making a ball, you would increase for a while and then you would do the same number of stitches in order to make this part go down, just like this guy, just it goes down like that evenly, and then you would start decreasing to make the other side of the ball, and then at the very end you'd have a ball. So right now we're just going to see how to do decreases. The way I like to do them is called an invisible decrease. I don't know why it's called an invisible decrease. I guess you don't see it that much, so it's invisible, but that's just what it's called. To do the decrease, you're going to insert your hook into the front loop of the first stitch, and then instead of yarning over like you would normally do on a stitch, you're just going to go right to the very next stitch and insert your hook into that front loop of the second stitch. And this is for a single crochet decrease. And then you're going to yarn over. Once you have those 2 stitches on your hook, then you're going to yarn over and pull through both of those stitches that your hook went under. So now you've got 2 stitches there, and then yarn over and pull through like you normally would for a decrease. And let's do that again. So one thing to note, it's just like it can be hard to see your next stitch when you do an increase, it can also be hard to see your stitch when you do a decrease. So you might think that, I'm not sure how well you can see this, but these 2 parts right here are both part of your decrease. You can see it when you pull up the stitch. It pulls up this part and this part. So you want to make sure you don't go into this, for your next stitch, you don't go into this stitch that you just pulled up the front loop of, or you will not have decreased. You will just end up with the same number of stitches again because you will not have decreased. So make sure that you're going into the very next stitch if you're going to do, you know, just a regular single crochet and not a decrease. And then you continue to do the decreases. So here we're going to decrease again. So you insert your hook into the front loop of the first stitch and the front loop of the second stitch. Then you yarn over, pull the yarn under both of those, and then yarn over and pull through the yarn through the loops on your hook. Let's do one more. Again, I want to not go into that stitch, which was part of my decrease, but I want to make sure to go into the next stitch, the very next stitch, and the stitch after. Yarn over, pull through both of those front loops. Then I have 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through those 2 loops. So again, you can see those are decreasing, kind of squishing the row together. Just in case you need to do a regular decrease, I'll just show you that as well. A regular single crochet decrease is you go under both loops of a stitch, yarn over, pull through. So now you have like a normal single crochet, you have 2 loops on your hook, but instead of yarning over and completing that stitch, you go into the next stitch, yarn over again and pull that through. And even though it's a single crochet, you have these 3 loops on your hook now. Just yarn over and pull through all 3. So that is I guess, a not invisible decrease. Let's just do one more of those. Go into the next stitch, yarn over, bring up a loop. Then before finishing, go into the next stitch, yarn over and bring up a loop, yarn over and pull through all the loops. So let's take a look. These last two are the not invisible decreases, and they're kind of thicker, they use more yarn. And these couple are the invisible decreases. So maybe they are more invisible because they're just not as clumpy as the other ones. And that's it. That's how you increase and decrease. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you at the next video.